So I was talking with my friend a couple days ago, and we were talking about some horrible business ideas that we had in the past, horrible businesses that we started in the past, how much money we lost. And it got me to thinking, what are the worst businesses to start? And this made me go down a little bit of a rabbit hole and collect a ton of information about the worst 5 businesses you can possibly start. Because I was like, I wonder how many of those businesses I've actually started. And turns out I've been a part of pretty much all 5 of the businesses that I'm going to share with you today. All right. So in this short video, I'm just going to be discussing the worst 5 businesses that you can possibly start. I'm going to tell you a little bit of personal stories for each of these 5 because I've actually done all of them. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Antoine Martel. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old when I was selling my neighbor's plum trees to everybody in town, taking the plums around with a wheelbarrow. Now, for the last 10 years, I've been investing in real estate. I bought and sold 1,500 single-family home rental properties. I bought and sold apartment buildings, and I've started many, many different businesses along the way. All right, so we're going to be going through the worst 5 businesses that I highly, highly recommend you do not start. And the first one is a pretty obvious one, restaurants. Okay, 60% of them fail within the first 3 years. You may be asking, why do these restaurants fail? Because they have high overhead, intense competition, tight margins, and difficulty scaling. All right. Also, they're very location dependent and impacted by economic shifts. Because especially if you're a high-end restaurant, people don't spend their money going out to high-end restaurants, especially if they are losing their jobs and they don't have much income coming in. Okay, so restaurants, I think you probably knew this one. Also, it's just extremely long hours. The burnout is also insane. I don't have a personal experience of running a restaurant, but I have something very, very similar. So my parents and I, mostly my parents, when I was in middle school and high school, had a Tuesday night supper club. So we would cook at our home and people would come to our house and pick up food for their family every Tuesday night. So my parents were big chefs. They loved to cook. And we kind of were running our own little restaurant. It was more like a catering business than a restaurant. And we did it for a couple of years. So we did it for 3 years. We had a pretty good success rate, but we were making money from it and stuff like that. It was just super, super tight margins. And it was a lot of fucking work. And especially if you have a restaurant and you have an actual retail space, we were cooking just in our backyard or not our backyard. We were just cooking in our kitchen at home. But we were like, should we get a soup kitchen? Should we, make this legit? Should we make a restaurant? Should we do this? And it's just so damn expensive. And you're not making much money selling the food, right? Because we were only selling to 10 families. Let's say they paid $50 per family. That's $500, right? But it probably costs us $200 in ingredients, $100 in ingredients, right? And then you have to do all the cooking, cleaning, prep work. You have to think about the menu the night before or the week before or weeks before, right? Because you don't want to serve the same thing every single week. And so it was just like a big burnout thing for us. And I think a lot of restaurants kind of run into that. One of my family friends growing up, 2 of my best friends growing up were twins, and their father had a restaurant as well. It was in San Carlos, California. He had a burger restaurant or like an American food restaurant. And he ran that restaurant for 20 years. The guy was waking up at 5 in the morning, coming home at 10 p.m. at night when the restaurant shut down. He was the owner of the business. He had been doing it for so long. People knew him. The food was good. It was just regular American food, but nothing special or fancy by any means. So they didn't really have anything with any issues with any economic shifts or anything like that. But it was just a really, really hard business. And I think anybody that you talk to knows that restaurants have a very, very high failure rate. So if you're thinking about starting a restaurant and it is your passion, think about maybe a different way to start a food business or something that does still pique your interest that is not a restaurant. That might be one of my recommendations to get started. All right. The worst second business to start is a retail store, especially brick and mortar. And so I moved to Miami around 3 years ago, and we walk around Miami all the time, bike around, scooter around, drive around. And the amount of retail space that is vacant is insane. The amount of turnover of these retail brick and mortar, sometimes restaurants too, is just insane. We actually were going to go to breakfast today. It's Saturday morning. We were going to go to breakfast today. And I told my girlfriend, hey, let's go to your favorite restaurant. We go look it up, and the restaurant shut down. And they're like, we're moving to a new location. They just moved to this location 12 months ago. They probably did a couple $100,000, if not $500,000 in a build out. The restaurant was beautiful. And it doesn't make sense, right? And so here, the failure rate, 50 to 55% of them fail within 5 years. Why? Online competition, slim margins, changing consumer behavior, and heavily fixed costs. Okay, so retail stores are really, really tough, especially when it's a restaurant plus a retail store, or restaurant in a brick and mortar location, obviously, not like a ghost kitchen, which is another interesting idea. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But retail stores also too, like just think about Barnes and Nobles, all these different bookstores that have got, completely dismantled by Amazon and all this online stuff happening. Which is part of this like changing consumer behavior. So many people now are not going into brick and mortar. I think what's going to stay in brick and mortar is going to be like, I'm getting a haircut today, for example, like that's going to stay there. I'm getting, my girlfriend, I'm not getting my nails done. My girlfriend's getting her nails done, for example, like that's going to stay there. Like these like consumer services are always going to stay in the brick and mortar space. And I bet they have a higher success rate than this, but like a retail store where you buy like goods, I think those are going to be going away. And I think this failure rate is going to get worse, to be honest, where I think there's just also so much vacant retail space right now, especially in Miami where I am. And even in LA, even in San Francisco, there's so much vacant retail space. Like people just aren't filling them up like they used to, because before online, you had to go to a store to do this, to do that. Now, like I order my groceries on Amazon, and on Amazon they have like a grocery store that's Amazon Fresh, which isn't even a brick and mortar. It's like a warehouse with a bunch of food, and they pick up the food in the warehouse and bring it to me. So that's kind of how I see the world continuing to evolve and continuing to change, especially when it comes to AI. Like, my fridge right now, like it reads my fridge right now, it knows what ingredients and what stuff I have in my fridge. And when I take something out and throw it away, it knows that it's empty. And eventually the whole fridge is just going to be completely run by AI. And it's going to be like, do you want more? Yes or no? And it's like, do you want me to just not ask you ever again? Yes, please. And then it just keeps delivering it, right? That means I'm going to go to the grocery store less because I have AI reading, looking at things in my home and figuring out what I need at that point and solving my issue. Instead of me having to go and think about fixing my issue or putting it on my grocery list and going out to the store. Okay. Second thing, I also ran with my mom her retail store. So she had a low carb health market, a low carb health store. Just like this, it failed within the first couple of years. It was new for its time. It was like a low carb store. So people that were like on a low carb diet, Atkins diet, that kind of thing, we would sell all those kind of stuff. She would, get all the stuff, put it on the retail shelves. She was on a main busy road. People were driving by it all the time. This was also in San Carlos. That's actually funny. And, I have firsthand experience of running a retail store, and that was like a retail grocery store, but very, very niche, low carb health store. So number 2, retail stores. Number 3, clothing and apparel businesses. I think you probably know this one because if you were ever 15 years old and you wanted to make money, what did you do? You started a clothing brand, right? Because you can just go to all these different websites online and slap a logo on it, slap an image on it, and boom, now you have a clothing and apparel brand. I feel like there's probably like 20 people that I know when we were 15 to 18 years old that started a clothing company. I don't know if it's the same for you. But failure rate, 50% within 4 years, that seems low to me. Trend volatility, inventory management challenges, high competition, and marketing costs required to build a brand. And I think that's the biggest problem with clothing and apparel brands. They're so hard to differentiate. You can be Justin Bieber and you can start Drew clothing brand, right? But people are only buying it because it has his fucking name on it. They're not buying it because, oh my God, the smiley face is so amazing. The material is so amazing. No, they want to be like Justin Bieber or feel like they're associated with Justin Bieber, all that kind of stuff, right? I've tried many, many different clothing brands because as a kid growing up, it was like one of just the easiest businesses to start. I've tried it many, many times. Every time I've failed. Every time I've watched other people try to start a clothing brand, they have failed as well. There's only one person that I think has like grown a successful clothing brand, but there's just so much competition. Like it is extremely, extremely high competition. And to be able to break out of that competition, you have to spend a lot of money on brand. And when you spend a lot of money on brand, that means you're not spending a lot of money that's going to the bottom line. And a lot of that money, like a lot of brand advertising, I guess, is not really like going towards your bottom line or creating revenue. It's creating like, people that are going to know about your brand, like your brand, trust your brand into the future, but they might not spend $1 right now. Right. So That's my 2 cents on clothing and apparel brands. I've tried to do it many, many times. Every single time it has failed me. So if you are looking to start a new business, I would probably stay away from a clothing and apparel brand, okay? Unless it's like a product, like you're looking at making like a clothing or apparel something that solves a problem. I like those ideas, but not something that's just a clothing or apparel brand. That's just like a nice comfy t-shirt that has this word on it. Anybody can make that. All right, construction business. Definitely have firsthand with this. I bought and sold 1,500 single-family home rentals. I've done 650 fix and flips myself. I've sold a lot of other people's properties as well. Done apartment buildings. Probably spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on construction with small GCs or remodelers. All right, 50% of them fail within 5 years. Cash flow issues, regulatory hurdles, high liability, labor shortage, project mismanagement, and they're not tech savvy. Okay, the biggest thing. This is just, I took this from online, like all these different why issues. But for me, this like not tech savvy is like the biggest one. Like they just don't know how to market, okay? And the problem is that they're very reviews based, but they don't know how to use technology to be reviews based. So it's like kind of reviews and referrals is the main way that these guys can get a lot of business. And a lot of them try to do like the sexy stuff. So like we're the best, sexiest granite countertop ever. And it's like someone could be like $1,000 to, your bid's $5,000, his bid's $4,000. And it's just like a race to the bottom. And I don't really like these race to the bottom businesses. I've done that before with like e-cigarettes. I've done that before with other companies that I've started. And it's always we'll talk about that with the next business as well, but it's always a race to the bottom. And I don't like these race to the bottom businesses. This was the problem with Amazon FBA for me as well. Like Amazon FBA, I was selling these like bicycle pizza cutters, tortilla warmers, all this kind of stuff before Amazon FBA was even when it first started. I was part of it, and it was just a race to the bottom. It's like the next guy has no overhead and your profit margin's $1. He's okay with 20 cents. Boom, you're out of business, right? He's just going to get more reviews and blah, 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 blah. He's going to scale up. There's no brand. And I feel like with construction companies too, there's no brand either. So you have these cash flow issues because you do the work and then you get paid, which sucks. Regulatory means you have to do like permits and all this kind of stuff, which is super annoying. High liability because they have to have insurance if anybody gets injured on the job. Labor shortages. It's really hard to find quality workers, especially with everything going on now in 2025. It's probably going to be even harder to find labor, which means the cost for construction is probably just going to go up. Project mismanagement is due to the fact that they aren't tech savvy. Like if you're a really good electrician, you're a really good electrician. You're not a really good like computer guy, tech guy, software guy. And then you don't have enough margin in your fucking business to hire somebody to do that anyways, to do the marketing, to do the sales, to get you new business, to do blah, 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 blah. And that's why there's so many of these roll-ups of like HVAC or electricians or all this kind of stuff, because there is somebody that just found 1,000 of these HVAC guys, plopped them all together and said, hey, you're going to use this tool, this software. We're going to help you with marketing and sales, get you the #1 reviews in your city, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So construction businesses, very, very hard to start, very hard to make a lot of money doing construction business. I had a kid come up to me a couple of days ago asking me, hey, I want to get into real estate investing. Do you think I should start a construction business? And this was before the conversation I had with my friend about the worst companies to start ever. And I was like, dude, you do not want to do that. Like, what do you have your degree in? I'm an accounting degree. Okay, why do you want to get into construction? Well, I thought that's the easiest way. If I learn construction, then I can learn how to find deals. Then I can learn how to, I'm like, no. Learning construction is not going to help you become a real estate investor. Sorry. Especially this, like he was going to be a small GC or remodel. He was exactly this. I'm like, you're not going to make any money. I mean, you're going to make some money, but you're just going to pay for the bills. You're not going to learn anything. Learning about, the 2x4s need to be 6 inches apart is not going to help you. How do I buy this how do I grow $1 billion real estate portfolio? Sorry, it's not going to. Unless you learn a little bit, you do that for 12 months and then you get out of it. Sure, but like those are non-transferable skills to the next level, if that makes sense. Cool. All right, last business, transportation and trucking companies. I have another YouTube video about this, and I've lost over $1 million running this business. I wish I had looked this up before starting this business because it was a horrible fucking idea. 50% failure rate in 3 to 5 years. We ran it for 2 years, and we just got destroyed. There's a lot of things that change in the market. I think we still would have gotten destroyed no matter what happened. Fuel costs, razor thin margins, high debt loads, regulatory compliance, and price wars. Price wars. That is exactly what it's like, okay? Especially for small fleets and owner operators. So here's the interesting thing that I liked about the trucking business. 90% of the people who own a trucking business are owner operators, which means they own their truck. So they own their truck, they go into a portal, and they're just like, I'm going to drive this load today and make $1,000. That's pretty much it, right? So we were like, damn, what if we just like bought 10 of these owner operators, blopped them into one thing, or started our own like fleet, right? A small fleet. And what if we started a small fleet of like 5 trucks, got rid of these owner operators? There's like, we can have more supply, we can have greater demand, we can build a brand, build relationships. No one gives a fuck. All they care about is the price war. So like if your load, if you're going to pay $5,000 for a load, okay, cool. You can go to a small fleet with 10 trucks that you've done business with before in the past, or you can spend half the money for an owner operator with no overhead, no insurance, no this, no that. He can still get it there in the same amount of time, maybe even faster, because he doesn't have to move the trucks around and all this kind of shit. He could just like go pick it up right now. You're just going to take the guy that you don't care if he's like an owner operator or a small fleet or he has 1,000 trucks. It doesn't fucking matter. So that's why this whole entire industry is 95% owner operators, because they have an advantage. And when I went into it, I was like, no, there must be some way that we can, get better pricing, get this, get that. No, I was completely wrong. This business is 95% owner operator. I don't see how it's ever going to change unless it becomes more regulatory compliance and these owner operators are, I don't know how it's going to change possibly, but this business is just kind of stuck where 95% of them are going to be owner operators, and you can't even hire those owner operators because they just need to get a license to be able to drive the truck. They buy a truck for 80 grand. Cool. Now they just have a money printing machine. They can make $5 grand a week driving loads. Why would they ever get a job and come work for you? So like if you have a license, all you need is the truck. So literally it's better to sell the fucking trucks and help these owner operators get financing on the trucks, sell the shovels instead of selling the loads, right? And the shovels meaning the trucks. It's easier to just do that, or create a platform that like helps these owner operators get loads. Like that would have been a way better idea than starting a small trucking business. So with that being said, thanks for watching this video. I hope you never start one of these 5 difficult businesses. If you want more business content, more real estate content, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next one.